who I had watched from the wings for years, gave me that Tony, and I worshipped her. I think she thought she was a genius.
At Trump Tower, Bette Midler attended an unusual dinner. There were a total of 5 individuals. If Trump wanted to meet her, he would have to fabricate a birthday party. Midler, though, was hiding something far greater. Her complete collapse occurred in the 1980s. All day long, she slept. All night long, she sobbed. She consumed an excessive amount of alcohol. She came perilously close to having her career cut short. On set, someone made her feel foolish. The misery she experienced rendered her unable to perform her job duties. 50 years after she hit rock bottom, Midler is now revealing the complete tale. Honolulu, Hawaii, is the site of Bette Midler's birth on December 1, 1945. Ruth Midler stayed at home and stitched clothes for her family, while Fred was a house painter. Their respective parents were Jewish immigrants to New Jersey, from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Russia, and Poland. Budgets were never flexible. Midler acknowledged her family's extreme poverty, and later characterized her upbringing as one of struggle. It was common for her to feel like an outcast growing up in a neighborhood where the majority of children were Asian. Though she had a tough life, she took solace in the breathtaking scenery of Hawaii. A feeling of liberation washed over her as she beheld the verdant surroundings, the ocean, and the clear blue skies. The memories would linger in her mind indefinitely. She had an innate need for more, even from a young age. Playing the part wasn't fantasizing. Somehow, it worked. Even though she was completely unfamiliar with their names, she adored Ethel Barrymore and other actresses. Her desire to perform on stage was unwavering. That was a notion that her father strongly opposed. He hoped she'd settle down and have a steady job. Instead, Midler had other intentions. She was a dedicated student who earned the title of valedictorian after finishing Radford High School. She then decided to pursue a degree in theater at the University of Hawaii. Her visit was brief. She had to get out of there if she was going to succeed. At the tender age of 19, she uprooted her life and headed for the Big Apple in 1965. UTA Hagen was her theatrical instructor at Greenwich Village's HB Studio, where she enrolled. As a legend, Hagen helped HB Studio become recognized for producing top-tier performers. Actors learned from her how to give life to their roles, not only how to act. Midler paid close attention in class. She carried such influences into the remainder of her career in her performances. Shortly after her arrival in New York, she began to secure tiny parts. She was in Cinderella Revisited and Miss Nefertiti Regrets, 2 off-Broadway shows. That second performance was unique. At that time, it was only a game for kids. The show took on an entirely new tone and adult content after dark. As a result of having to cater to 2 different types of audiences, Midler honed the adaptability that would become her signature. Her breakthrough came in October 1966. She understudied Satol and played Rivka in the Broadway production of Fiddler on the Roof. She became Satol's regular cast member in February 1967. Running for more than 3,000 performances, the show was a huge success. People took note of her performance of Matchmaker during the 1968 Tony Awards broadcast. A preview of future events was provided. While she was in New York, she accomplished more than simply advance her profession. Deep personal loss was also a hallmark of it. Fiddler on the Roof was her musical theater debut. Judy, her sister, dropped by for a visit. Regrettably, a joyful occasion was marred by tragedy. A tragic accident claimed Judy's life. Midler continued on despite the devastating loss. Without giving an inch, she dove headfirst into her job. Unexpectedly, Bette Midler's path to stardom began. She began singing professionally in the summer of 1970 at the Continental Baths, a homosexual bathhouse located in the basement of New York City's Ansonia Hotel. Over the course of 3 months, she earned $50 for each performance. She later reached a $100 renegotiation. The location served as more than simply a club. Among its amenities were a disco dance floor, a cabaret lounge, and vending machines that offered KY jelly. Before it became the home of a celebrity, it was a meeting spot for gay men. She was first met with confusion by the crowd. The club was more accustomed to male artists and DJs than to a young lady with crimson hair, vintage clothes, and a wicked sense of humor. When it came to crowds though, Midler was a master. She made each performance an extravaganza by singing 1940s classics and telling outlandish jokes. With the Star-Spangled Banner playing as her opening number, the act frequently descended into raucous anarchy. Males dumping their towels and making out with famous people. The establishment quickly became a nightly hotspot for many. Attendees included Princess Margaret, Mick Jagger, Alfred Hitchcock, Andy Warhol, and Alfred. In terms of aesthetics, the room was drab. The damp air made the piano sound off-key, while the light source consisted of incandescent lights housed in tin cans. But it didn't bother Midler. She felt completely at ease. Among those nights, Barry Manilow was a major player. At the time, he was just a poor musician who would earn $75 a performance accompanying her on piano. Steve Ostro, the proprietor of the club, introduced Midler to Manolo when she needed a pianist. The two hit it off. It worked out wonderfully. Manolo was more than simply a pianist. He was instrumental in developing her sound and went on to co-produce her 1972 first album, The Divine Miss M. Going to the Baths on those evenings wasn't simple. The piano frequently went out of tune and the sound system was clumsy. To check that they were audible, Manolo borrowed microphones from friends' studios. Nevertheless, the results were worth it. Their abilities were honed, and they formed a bond with a supportive audience during their performances. Many people like Midler's first album, certified platinum. The Divine Miss M peaked at #9 on Billboard's Top 200 list. Friends and You Wanna Dance were among the tunes that were featured. Boogie Woogie Boogle Boy, however, was her first adult contemporary single to reach #1. She had a gift for moving audiences with her comedic timing and emotional depth. According to Robert Christgau, the record was both emancipatory and prophetic. Even though Midler became a household name after winning the Grammy for Best New Artist in 1973, she never lost sight of her roots, which she attributed to her success as a novelty act. The moniker Bathhouse Betty stayed with her, and she even came to like it. She understood there was more going on than music during those early concerts. Visibility was the key. Even though the LGBT community was shrouded in secrecy at the time, she bravely took the stage to perform. Bathhouse Betty, her 1998 CD, was a dedication to the fans who had been there for her from the start. The Rose, Bette Midler's 1979 cinematic debut, catapulted her to stardom. For her debut film, she did more than simply act, she was totally bringing it. Mary Rose Foster, a rock star battling addiction and stardom, was portrayed by her. She was nominated for Best Actress at the Academy Awards for her outstanding performance. Even just being nominated for an Oscar for a debut role placed her in an exclusive club. She was also named the year's Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes. Midler was obviously more than simply a musician attempting an acting role, indeed she was a performer. Although it wasn't billed as such, Janis Joplin's life served as a major inspiration for the film. The performance by Midler was honest and authentic. The euphoria and crushing weight of fame were both shown by her. The intensity of her live concert moments was noticed by both reviewers and crowds. The sacrifices she made were worthwhile. Frederick Forrest was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, one of 4 nods for the picture. It wasn't only Midler who brought The Rose to life, the film also took home awards for Best Sound and Best Film Editing. Her shift from performing music to acting was effortless. She had honed her craft over many years of playing at underground venues like New York's Continental Baths. She brought her infectious enthusiasm and magnetic stage presence to the picture. She didn't only disprove those who questioned her ability to manage such a demanding task, she was the first to do it. Midler had made her grand entrance to Hollywood with The Rose, which went on to become one of the most legendary musical dramas of all time. Following this, the music began to play. The film may have been her big break, but it was the song The Rose that truly cemented her place in history. Before it was included in the film's score, Amanda McBroom's song was mostly unheard of, but that all changed. After its single release, the song reached #3 on Billboard's Hot 100. There was no break in its 5-week reign atop the adult contemporary charts. The crowd felt every syllable of Midler's emotionally charged rendition of The Rose. It was the song that brought her the Best Female Pop Vocal Performance Grammy in 1981. Despite competing against musical greats such as Donna Summer and Barbra Streisand, she triumphed. The universally relatable lyrics of the song spoke to the power of love and perseverance. This song a fan favorite of hers. The Rose was excluded from the Academy Awards for not being composed especially for the film, but winning the Golden Globe for Best Original Song. Regardless, it went on to become a classic. Even after all these years, millions of people have listened to it on streaming services like Spotify, making it one of her most popular songs. There are many memorable events in Bette Midler's career, from her classic film performances to her dramatic ballads. From a Distance and Wind Beneath My Wings, two of her most famous songs, became iconic in popular culture. The song Wind Beneath My Wings was composed in 1982 and recorded by several singers. Nevertheless, it was Midler's 1988 rendition from the soundtrack of the film The Beaches that achieved legendary status. With its meteoric rise to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 in June 1989, and 2 Grammy Awards in 1990, including Record of the Year, it achieved unprecedented success. Because of its touching lyrics, the song became a standard at memorial services and funerals. In 2002, it was even the most performed song at funerals in the United Kingdom. There was more to Midler's association with the song. She gave it another heartfelt resurrection when she sang it at the in memoriam portion of the 2014 Oscars. In a very different context, she sang it in 1993 on The Simpsons with Krusty the Clown, a memorable moment for Simpsons fans. The song sold over 1 million copies and was certified platinum in the US, indicating its massive success in terms of sales. In 1990, as part of her album Some People's Lives, Midler had another hit with From a Distance, which was released just 2 years after Wind Beneath My Wings. On the Billboard Hot 100, the song peaked at #2, while on the adult contemporary chart, it soared to #1. It became one of the most played songs on the radio, and won a Grammy for Song of the Year in 1991. Broadcast Music Int also gave it an award for 3 million airs. The capacity to infuse each note of her music with genuine passion was on full display in these 2 songs, which were watershed events in Midler's career. Her achievements in movies were just as spectacular as her singing career. Midler's performance in Beaches was seamless between her musical and acting roles. Her best-selling record to this day is the score to the film, which depicts the tale of a friendship that lasts a lifetime. Over 5 million copies have been sold globally. Pocus Pocus, released in 1993, demonstrated her ability to bring larger-than-life humor to the big screen, while Beaches demonstrated her emotional breadth. Midler gave a performance brimming with energy, comedy, and the perfect amount of menacing as Winifred Sanderson, the head of a trio of witches brought to life on Halloween. Despite a resuscitation on television, the picture failed to shatter box office records, earning $45 million against a $28 million budget. As a cult favorite, it became even more popular in 2018, with an average of over 8 million viewers for Freeform's yearly Halloween broadcasts. One of the most iconic moments from the film is when Midler sang It Put a Spell on You, and in 2022, she reprised the role in Hocus Pocus 2, showing that fans' adoration for the Sanderson sisters had no bounds. The sequel exceeded the opening weekend box office totals for Disney+. Midler, who co-starred with Goldie Hawn and Diane Keaton in the 1996 film Wives Club, once again demonstrated her impeccable comic timing. Despite only having a $30 million budget, the film's clever perspective on female empowerment and vengeance made it a huge success, earning $181 million worldwide. One of Midler's most popular films, because to the strong performances of all 3 leads, and the universal messages of strength and unity it explored. In every film she appeared in, Midler left an indelible impression on viewers, whether it was Beaches, Hocus Pocus, or The First Wives Club, where she moved people to tears or laughter. One of the most popular soundtracks of all time was the Beaches soundtrack, which was released in December 1988. With over 3 million copies sold, it reached triple platinum certification in the US and peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200 list. Its worldwide sales exceeded 5 million pieces. As popular as Wind Beneath My Wings was, other songs on the album, such as Under the Boardwalk, were instrumental in creating the film's wistful mood. The soundtrack was a watershed point in Midler's career, because of the way she could combine music with narration. The intriguing aspects of Midler's life extend well beyond her career in music and cinema. A rare occurrence in Hollywood, her marriage to Martin von Hauselberg was both impulsive and long-lasting. They started dating in 1984 and planned to elope after just 6 weeks. Their nuptials were unremarkable, happening around 2 in the morning in a little church in Las Vegas, officiated by someone dressed like Elvis, until 2008, when the chapel provided them images unexpectedly. Decades later, there were no professional shots, and the ceremony cost only $45. Even though their marriage was short and sweet, Midler and von Hauselberg have been together for more than 40 years. How did they manage to keep their romance going for so long? Sharing bedrooms for the night. Midler has been very forthright about how her husband's snoring necessitated this arrangement, but she also thinks that the privacy it provided them allowed them grow closer with one another. Even though it's not the norm, they were successful with this strategy, and they're not alone. Separate bedrooms might be good for couples, according to other famous people. Despite Midler's demanding job, their marriage flourished, in part because von Hauselberg quit his career as a commodities trader to devote more time to his daughter Sophie's upbringing. The 1986-born Sophie von Hauselberg has a fierce feeling of independence while growing up in the glamorous Hollywood environment. She first majored in sociology and East Asian studies while at Yale University. Even more impressively, she worked in China for a while, during which she studied Mandarin and gained advertising expertise. But in the end, Sophie did what her mother had done. She got her Master of Fine Arts from Yale in 2014 after returning there in 2011 to pursue acting. She then made her off-Broadway debut in Gary Marshall's Billy and Ray not long after. She made her acting debut in 2015's Irrational Man, directed by Woody Allen, co-starring opposite Joaquin Phoenix and Emma Stone. Poe's American Horror Story, and films such as Ask for Jane and Give Me Pity, were among her subsequent television appearances. There have been many memorable moments throughout Bette Midler's career. One of the highest points of her career came in 2017, when she played Dolly Gallagher-Leve in the Hello Dolly revival on Broadway. There were 550 performances, including 34 previews of the show, which premiered on April 20, 2017 at New York City's Shubert Theater. Midler had been performing for decades prior to the show's August 25, 2018, conclusion, but this part gave her her first Tony Award, something she had never earned before. The fact that she had only won a special Tony in 1974 for illuminating the Broadway season made the event all the more significant when she accepted the Tony for Best Actress in a Leading Role in a Musical. The Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Musical Actress went to her as well. Out of 10 nominations, the production took home 4 Tonys, including Best Revival of a Musical. It was a smashing success. Even before the very first performance, Hello Dolly had a tremendous amount of anticipation. They made a record-breaking $9 million the day tickets were on sale. Warren Carlyle served as choreographer for the show, while Jerry Zaks was the director. Santo Loquasto, who received a Tony Award for his work on the set and costumes, was responsible for the stunning visual design. David Hyde Pierce, Horace Vandergelder and Gavin Creel Cornelius Hackle were Midler's co-stars, and they each brought something special to the iconic musical. Dolly was more than simply a part for Midler, it was the pinnacle of her life, she said. Every performance exuded the enthusiasm of a long-awaited dream come true for her. Nothing was ever forgotten, not even her Tony acceptance speech. She was so adamant about thanking everyone who had supported her, that she refused to get off the platform and spoke over the music when the orchestra attempted to cut her off. It exemplified her fearless, relentless personality, which had propelled her to stardom. Midler has been prominent not just as an actress but also as a producer on Broadway. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert was a particularly triumphant performance from her acting career. An Australian film from 1994 called The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, served as the inspiration for this musical. Opening night was March 20, 2011 at the Palace Theatre, and the last night was June 24, 2012, for a total of 526 performances on Broadway. Priscilla, a lavender bus, transported 3 characters, a transsexual lady, 2 drag queens, and a cross-country journey across the Australian outback. Pop songs like I Will Survive and It's Raining Men were performed when they overcame obstacles and found themselves. After seeing the musical in London's West End, Midler was immediately convinced that it should transfer to Broadway. More than just a boost to the show's ratings, her participation as a producer demonstrated her dedication to championing tales that were daring, colorful, and emotional. Some of the most breathtaking costumes ever seen on Broadway were created by Tim Chappell and Lizzie Gardner. For Best Costume Design, they took home Tony and Olivier Awards. 2 Tony nominations were bestowed to the production, which was lauded for its ability to combine high-energy entertainment with a profound message of acceptance and self-discovery. Beyond the stage, Midler's impact is felt far and wide. She started what is now known as NYRP, New York Restoration Project, in 1995. A group of concerned New Yorkers came together to form this foundation with the goal of rehabilitating rundown parks in low-income neighborhoods. She was compelled to take action due to her profound worry for the state of these neighborhoods' parks and gardens. When no other citywide conservancy was willing to commit private funds to underfunded public areas, the New York Restoration Project stepped in. In 1999, the group had one of its most significant successes. Just 52 community gardens were spared from the city's plans to sell them off for commercial development, thanks to the intervention of NYRP. Because they provided venues for community gatherings, exercise programs, and environmental education, these gardens quickly became beloved meeting places for the neighborhood's inhabitants. Still, Midler wasn't done yet. She was eager to tackle more ambitious tasks. Over 100 volunteers were mobilized by NYRP to clean up the Hudson River waterfront in Fort Washington Park. The formerly unkempt area is now a neat and inviting park. A comparable revitalization took place in Fort Tryon Park, with pathways being cleaned and leisure spaces being restored. The Harlem River's Sherman Creek Park was the site of another large-scale undertaking. Swindler Cove Park, now home to wetlands, a freshwater pond, and community gardens, was once an illicit dumping area before being transformed into it by NYRP. The 2013 Jane Jacobs Medal was awarded Midler for her work on urban redevelopment. She won the prize for her efforts to improve the sustainability and quality of life in urban areas, especially in neglected areas. She was instrumental in the creation of parks and gardens via NYRP, which have had a lasting impact on the lives of thousands of New Yorkers. Though she has never shied away from controversy, Bette Midler's statements have at times provoked strong reactions. After publishing a tweet that many saw as anti-trans, she became embroiled in controversy in July 2022. Women of the World was her work. Our rights to control our own bodies, lives, and even our own names are being taken away from us. No longer are we referred to as women. They refer to us as menstruators, birthing folks, or even just persons with vaginas. Keep your identity intact. The response came right away. Many saw her comments as an insult to the transgender and non-binary community members who are pregnant. Opponents contended that phrases such as birthing people encompass those who do not identify as female, rather than erasing women. Not only does inclusive language aim to recognize multiple gender identities, but it is not meant to devalue women, as pointed out by campaigners like Roxane Gay, an author. Particularly let down were Midler's admirers. For many years she had been an outspoken advocate for LGBTQ+ rights. In the 1970s, she had a devoted fan base playing at homosexual bathhouses. She was asked to re-evaluate her position by Panty Bliss, an Irish drag queen, and others, who pointed out that the rights of trans people and women are not at odds with one another. She swiftly sent a follow-up tweet in response. A New York Times opinion piece concerning the deletion of the term women in some talks prompted her comments. She explained. She emphasized her unwavering support for underprivileged populations and vowed she would never intentionally exclude anybody. However, a lot of people had already felt its effects. Some thought her justification failed to adequately address the criticisms that prompted the outcry. Her remarks, according to some, further exacerbated tensions between feminist and LGBTQ+ communities. Midler had previously been the target of criticism for remarks she made on gender. Following the cancellation of Caitlyn Jenner's reality program, I Am Kate, in August 2016, Midler took to Twitter to announce the news. Will she revert to her Bruce self? Is he going to return to Chris? Is a second marriage in the air? Rapid retaliation ensued. Many took Jenner's shift as a sign that she was only trying to gain publicity or was transphobic because of the post. Critics said Midler was trivializing the difficulties transgender individuals encounter with her disgusting remark. Considering her extensive background in advocating for LGBTQ+ rights, the outcry was particularly intense. She apologized and removed the tweet later. Dear friends whom I have always stood by, I apologize if my last tweet upset a random thought. It seems I misjudged the mood of the moment, because the apologies elicited conflicting responses. Some people were cool with it, while others thought it was rude and didn't do anything to fix the problem with the first remark. Strange occurrences abound throughout Bette Midler's Hollywood career. The dinner party that Donald Trump had in the 90s was one of the most odd events. Nevertheless, Andre Leon Talley was the former creative director of Vogue, and she and her husband Martin von Hazelberg arrived at Trump Tower anticipating a raucous birthday bash in honor of the man. As it turned out, they were instead a part of a very intimate meeting of no more than 5 individuals. The Trump family, Melania, Donald, Talley, Midler and her spouse. It was an odd night right from the bat. Even though Midler had come because she admired Talley, the mood was everything from celebratory. It was a low-key meal with no apparent agenda, and there weren't even many invited guests. She was perplexed as to why she had been invited for a long time. She finally reached a decision. It is possible that Trump used Talley's connections at Vogue to lure her to his table, and he may have orchestrated the whole evening to meet her. The unease of the night was heightened by that notion. The recollection was even more intriguing because of her subsequent vocal opposition to Trump. Throughout his administration, she made it clear that she did not think he was capable of leading. She claimed he was more interested in performing than in politics. The strange supper gave me a glimpse of his character, planned, strategic and driven by ulterior motives in hindsight. While Midler has had her fair share of problems, none have been quite like that fateful night. Some were very private, like the struggle she endured in the early 1980s when her career was on the brink of collapse. 2 Golden Globes and critical praise for her 1979 performance in The Rose put her on the path to Hollywood stardom. Unfortunately, she had hoped for a more seamless transition from music to movies. She was exhausted from her performance travels. Hollywood was hesitant to cast her in prominent roles, even though she won several awards for her performances. She was at a loss as to what to do next and felt trapped. One of the lowest points in her life was caused by such uncertainty. To cope, she drank excessively, slept for days, and cried for nights, as she subsequently revealed. A total collapse, according to her description. She fell even further into depression following a particularly harrowing encounter on set, when she was accused of grandstanding, and left feeling humiliated. The stage was her savior. Going back to performing live brought her full circle to her initial motivation. According to her, doing what she was best at, her core business, was what kept her grounded, no matter what else was going on. She sought professional therapy, which was essential to her rehabilitation, but touring also helped her pull herself out of her despair. She eventually regained her equilibrium. She has shown that even the most accomplished individuals have low points by being transparent about her own challenges. Getting assistance is a sign of strength, not weakness. At the D23 Expo on August 23, 2019, Midler was recognized as a Disney legend, bringing a complete circle to her career that had begun decades before. This honor, which recognizes artists whose work has endured, was bestowed upon her for her work with the Walt Disney Company. Since Midler was unable to attend the ceremony in person, her daughter Sophie von Hesselberg collected the honor on her behalf and gave a moving, humorous, and heartfelt acceptance speech. It was in it that Midler quipped about being able to call herself an artist after 50 years in the entertainment industry. Her 1988 voice part as Georgette in Oliver and Company was her first involvement with Disney, which began in the late 1980s. Winifred Sanderson, in 1993's Hocus Pocus, was one of her most recognized roles, which she played a few years later. She was permanently etched into Disney lore with this picture, which wasn't exactly a smashing success at its initial release, but has since become a Halloween classic. Her impressive career spans well beyond her time at Disney. She is multi-talented, having received 4 Grammys, 3 Emmys, and a Tony for her work in comedy, acting and singing. Outside of the entertainment industry, her impact is substantial. Additionally, she is a committed philanthropist who uses her nonprofit work to better communities.